Your homework was to finish reading the chapter. Hopefully you did that. If you did not do that, I don't know, it might be better for you to just take a nap right now and do it later, instead of stealing answers from other people. But so you read through the end. You were supposed to complete questions 4 through 7, right? Correct?
Yes.
Excellent. So we're going to go through those questions, and then we'll add some more questions together, and then any time that we have left, you can study for your test, which again is on Tuesday. So we are on page 19, I believe. Yes. Because we haven't answered chapter or question 4 yet. So, thank you. I always appreciate the reinforcement. I need it. So, why should people be agnostic about Immanuel Kant's agnosticism? Why should they not know about it or not take it for true? Yeah.
Because he claims that he can't know. By claiming that, he's inferring that he knows. So, like, why would you listen to somebody who's contradicting himself?
It does. It's the roadrunner tactic, right? Self-defeating statement. What were you gonna say?
Oh, just the same thing. Like he's saying that there's a difference between the real world and like what your mind sees, but in order to know that, you have to know both. So
In order to know that you can't know, you need to know, right?
I have a question about that.
Yes.
So if we were to go with what he says about how you can't know what the real world is, when he says the real world, does he mean just everything else around you? And so that includes him? So why would we, if he's saying, that you can't trust what you perceive, but he's telling us to trust what he's perceiving?
Right, he's saying he knows that you can't know.
How does someone make a statement like that?
That you can't know.
Right, but how does someone make a statement like that and just not hear the like?
Did he believe it himself?
Did he believe it himself? He's a philosopher. Philosophers take something that everybody can look at and go, "Yep, that's true," and they some philosophers, and especially those who say there can't be a God. So that's going to listen. If you are a follower of Christ, if you believe in God, whatever you do, that's going to color how you do it. Even when I was a teacher in public school, I didn't take and I wasn't supposed to talk about God, and I wasn't, I still was a follower of Christ in that school, and I wasn't going to take. I got in trouble one time, a little bit of trouble, and I said what I told people: I'm not going to stop being a Christian just because I walked through the doors of them.
What did you get in trouble for?
Bringing in a speaker.
But do you teach like religion?
I taught world religions. But
wouldn't that be the same thing as bringing in someone who's a Muslim?
Yes.
Wait.
Yes, but theoretically, and I didn't bring in a Muslim, but I did bring in a rabbi.
Or a Jew or something.
And yeah, I brought in a rabbi. But that was allowable. It wasn't in my class. It was for the whole school.
Oh.
In fact, I preach the gospel every year, every semester actually, in world religions. And one time I was being observed. So you got observed once a year by one of the principals, and I looked at what I was doing, and I was preaching the gospel. And so the one of the principals came in, and she sat down in the back. And the first thing I said was, Mrs. Is here today to observe me and make sure. I had the choice of when and what class she would observe. You gave her like 3 or 4 choices, and then she picked one. And I knew what I was going to be talking about. So I said, well, Mrs. is observing me today to make sure I'm okay to teach. So I just thought we'd start with a word of prayer. And everybody went, no, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
But now I really did get to start with prayer. And I preached the gospel.
but
I preach salvation for, in Judaism, Islam,
okay, I was
you
gonna
know,
say.
yeah. So I with all of it was world religions. So I talked about each of the world's main religions, and talked about that. But so every year I did the same drawing I do for you guys on the board, and it was a lot of fun. I don't know why we were talking about that. That was not
'Cause I
really
was asking
germane to
about-
anything, but it was fun. Kant claims to know something, namely that you can't know, but that's self-defeating. You can't say you can't know anything when you know that, because you do know something. Now that's not true, obviously, that we can't know, but Kant is contradicting himself. So this is what I wrote down. Kant claims that no one can know the real world, only the representation they perceive. But this is self-defeating. Kant claims to know something, namely that no one can know anything. So, yeah, it's a self-defeating statement, and obviously we can't actually know that that's Mason. We can. He's just obfuscating. That's like, oh, somebody remind me, have I done obfuscate for a word about, because I had a sophomore say, when are you going to put a new word of the week? And I'm like, don't ask me that. But, so somebody say obfuscate.
Obfuscate.
No, before you leave here.
Oh.
Because I have plan period after this, and I can do a new word however long it is. Okay, and then your situation. Can the Roadrunner tactic prove that God exists or that Christianity is true? Why or why not?
It can prove both because God has been true at all times and all places, and there are outside sources that point to God and that Christianity is true, and there's evidence in nature of an all-knowing God.
That is true, but did you use the Roadrunner tactic to do that? No. So the question is, can you use the Roadrunner tactic? Yes.
No, because it can only disprove, not prove.
It can only disprove, it cannot prove. It can prove something wrong, like you're claiming to know something that you say you can't know anything, but you're claiming to know something. So that's the Roadrunner tactic. Now, that proves Kant false, but it doesn't tell us anything. We've got to go elsewhere to find that.
That's why
It can only prove theories wrong. It cannot positively prove anything. Okay. Yeah. 6. What are the first principles of thought? Yes, John. The self-evident laws of logic. What do we mean when we say self-evident?
the non-contradiction law of.
No, but what is self-evident?
There.
Yeah, we just know it's true. It doesn't need an explanation because we intuitively know that it's true. So the self-evident laws of logic, they need no proof from other principles because they are self-evident. I think they alluded to the Constitution, right? We hold these things to be self-evident, that we have been endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. So, and then it lists them, right? Right. Yeah. So, they're saying it's self-evident. It doesn't need proof because it's self-evident. So define these first principles. So we're talking about, okay, so what are the first principles of thought? What is the law of non-contradiction? Yes.
Contradicting claims can't both be true.
Yes. Two contradictory claims cannot both be true in the same at the same time in the same sentence. So Ellie can't be Ellie and Aaron. The closest thing to being Aaron genetically, but she can't be, right? And that's self-evident, right? The two contradictory things can they both be false? But they can't both be true at the same time. Okay, and what's the law of the excluded middle? This isn't talking about being a middle child, I understand that. Being excluded, whatever. We won't go into my history. Yes, John.
Either something is or something isn't.
Either something is or it is not. There's no in between. Either God exists or he doesn't. He maybe half exists. No, you either exist or you don't, right? So everybody got that?
Like that.
Yeah, next. Something is either is or it is not. There's no middle ground. Number 8.
We did not do that.
Oh, so this is where we start discussing. Okay, but you read. So here we go. I even put this. Define these terms used in logic. So what is deduction?
Isn't that what?
Actually, I'm gonna have a look.
Okay. Or you go.
Well, I found in the books actually but one part of it, but the process of lining up promises in an argument arriving at a conclusion.
Yes, it's a logical argument, right? Deduction is if this is true and this is true and this is true, then this must be true. So it's a series of premises. It may be 2, it may be 10, but if they're all true, then the conclusion must be true. And that's what this book is, right? If everything we do this year, if it's true, then the conclusion has to be true. So if I say this is second hour, I have Bible 11a, second hour. Therefore, I am teaching Bible 11. Right? If it's true that this is second hour, if it's true that I teach Bible 11a, second hour, then the conclusion that I am teaching Bible 11a right now is true, right? So that is deduction, and you're going to see this on your test, and you need to know the difference between deduction and induction, and you also need to know how to write a logical argument. So what is induction? Yes. No, it's more than guessing.
Here.
It's yeah, well, yeah. So induction is drawing conclusions from repeated observation. What do we call that?
The scientific method.
The scientific method. The scientific method is induction. Induction is the scientific method. I don't know if I've told you the story before. I'll probably tell it again. Don't tell me I've told you that story. Don't ever tell me I've told you that story. I love my stories so much. I want to tell them, and you just have to take it
Get
again
over it.
and know the punchline already. Have I told you about chemistry in college?
No,
Yes.
Chemistry
No.
was a train wreck in college, mostly because I didn't want to take chemistry in high school. I didn't have to graduate, so why would I take it? Because I was becoming a PE teacher and you had to take chemistry. So I did not have the, I didn't want to ruin my GPA. I was stupid. I didn't know it would ruin my GPA. I just had to pass it. But anyway, I like after the first test, I went into the prof and I said, I need a tutor. And he said, and it was like one of those big classes, like there were 100 people in the class. And then when I bought the second one, I don't know if I went to him. Yes. So my first experiment was titration. You know this word, right?
No.
Okay. Oh, you're just starting chemistry. Okay. So you have a little beaker thing here, and I think there was flame under it, but I don't think there was flame under it. And there was a clear liquid in that beaker. And then there was this titrator. It's a little thing that drops, just drop, 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 one at a time. And there was clear fluid in that. And it said to drop drops into the beaker until something happened. So clear, clear, drop, 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 pink. Like it's pink in the beaker. And the first question was, what happened? Yes, it turned pink. How was it protection? The second one was why? Because it wanted to. I had no idea why. I could do the scientific method, but I couldn't understand why it happened. So that's your visual to remember what induction is. Induction is the scientific method. It's drawing conclusions from repeated observation. Number 9. How is? I want to make sure I said everything I want to say. You want to study? What else does it say? How is truth known? Yes. Through observation. Induction is one of them. One of the ways we can know is induction. Repeated observation. Deduction as well. Lining up premises and coming to an conclusion. Now, what did we call that?
Like for which one? For the whole thing.
Well, what deduction? What is that based on? Logic. You can find truth through logic. And these are called the first principles. So truth is known through the first principles, which are logic, induction, deduction. But does that tell us everything about everything?
No.
It can't tell us about the supernatural. It can tell us about the natural world, and we still don't know everything about the natural world, right? But it can't tell us about the supernatural. So we still need faith. That gap between what we know and what we cannot know is faith.
Is that number 2?
And that's why this is called, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, because what I hope to prove to you is that it takes more faith to not believe in God and what he has done than it takes to believe. Does that make sense? So faith is needed. We don't know everything. Only God knows that. So I want to talk a little bit about, we'll answer this next one and then I'll talk about that. How are truths about God known? Come on.
You can like read what God knows.
Courage.
Yeah, we use the same things to prove God as we do to prove anything else. We're just doing it with truths about God. So we use induction, right? Just as we do for other truths. This is true, and this is true, and this is true. Then
Deduction as well, though, too.
and deduction as well. It's through observing. I may have told you this story too. So the night my grandmother died, my mother is my mother's mother, and she was out of town, and we had to call her. And we were in the nursing home with my grandmother lived. And they took us to this little office on the Alzheimer's unit to call because this is the first cell phone. And as we were walking in, the door, the room across from us was ajar. It was dark, and there was a man in there who was saying, "Lord our God, how majestic is your name in the earth." And he went on to quote out the psalm. He was on that psalm. And I remember saying, "Lord, if I'm ever here, let me have scripture." And that psalm is a psalm of induction. I know God exists because I see this and I see this and I see this. Created. So we use that as well. Yes.
Wait, the man was inside of the
So he was out.
The door was
Or slightly ajar.
Yeah, ajar meaning slightly open.
Slowly.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be our next word of the week.
They get in trouble for that. Even if it was a nice big jar, they would get in trouble.
I think that should be our next word of the week. Just for Emily.
a dark room and the door was ajar.
That's one for the book on the
Yeah, put that in the book.
that and the kids that walked across the interstate.
What?
What?
I've told you this.
No.
I'm 2 weeks into my teaching career. I'm teaching PE with Shelley Donahue. And I decided that I was going to start out these Colorado girls, this Nebraska girl, teaching them with football. They needed to learn about football. So,
Good job.
so the school was on one side of I-70, and the football field was on the other side of 70. So you'd go out of the school, you'd walk over a bridge, you'd go to the first lane, you'd turn left, and you were at the football field. Well, before class started, 2 little girls came in to me. These are middle schoolers, so 14, 15 years old. And they come together, and you girls will understand this. Boys, you're just going to have to hang on. So they come in, and a girl says, I need to go to the nurse. And the other girl says, I need to go with her. And of course, I'm a woman, so I said, okay, just meet us at the football field. So I go down the football field. I'm starting my first drill with them. And I turn around to see them just as they are crawling over the boundary, the concrete boundary between the eastbound lanes and the westbound lanes of I-70. And they go over that barricade. They cross the westbound lanes. They climb the very high fence and come down. And the look that's on Jared's face was the look on my face. I ran over to them and I said, what were you doing? What were you thinking? And they're like, well, you told us to come to the football field. And I said, do you think I took the entire class over the eastbound lanes, across the barricade, over the westbound lanes, and over the fence? We didn't know. I've been living here your whole life. Go across the bridge. And I saw my entire teaching career flash with me. Like, I'm done. I will never teach again. I got 2 weeks. That's it.
Good. 2 girls walk across the interstate.
Well, I thought it could have gone bad.
Real bad.
Okay,
This is your
move
face.
on. I'm telling you something
really
bad. This is gonna take like 15 minutes in the other class. This is already, how long is it? 25 minutes. 25 minutes.
We're having fun class.
Okay.
With you.
So we use induction just as we do for other truths. We use observation. So, for example, if a book requires pre-existing intelligence, might the universe require some? So let's talk about induction. Let's talk about logic. Because you need to know how to write a logical argument. You can't use any of the ones in the book, and you can't use any of the ones that I've given you. And it can have as many premises as you want, but it has to have at least 2 premises.
We just do at least 2.
And you can do, well, and with a conclusion. So
Yes.
2 premises and a conclusion. So it has to have at least 3 lines. Okay, so what I want you to understand that in order for a logical argument to be used, to it to be good, I guess is the best way I can put it. It has to be both valid and true. Now, true means that if you do this and you do this and this is what happens, it's true. But valid is different. It has to line up. So I'm going to give you some examples. All dogs have 4 legs. Mabel is a dog. So Mabel has 4 legs.
But,
No.
well, that's birth defects.
And that-
birth defects.
Right. It's possible that that's not true.
So like stereotypically, it's alright.
So it's valid, right? Because the premise follows, not the premise, the conclusion is the right conclusion. It's the true conclusion to those things. A lot of times I have kids say something like, one premise and another premise, but then the conclusion doesn't follow. That's invalid. This is valid, right? If all dogs have 4 legs and if Mabel is a dog, then Mabel, has 4 legs. So it's valid, but it's not necessarily true. It's likely true, but it's not always true, right? So then let's try this one. All women are bad drivers.
Amen.
Mrs. Keyser is a woman. Mrs. Keyser is a bad driver. Don't say anything that you have ridden in the car. Never happened. Never. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just saying, never happened. So is that valid? If
No.
all women are bad drivers, and I'm a woman, then and I'm a woman, then I must be a bad driver.
Yes.
That is
No.
valid. That is valid. Is
Do
it
they?
true?
Yes.
So your first statement's not,
It depends.
but your third statement is. You're not a bad driver. You're just an aggressive driver.
Hey, I like Coach Kisu's driving.
Wow.
I like your driving.
Me too.
Are you
still
interesting?
All 4 of you. Are you all 4 of you? Are you serious?
Yes, and you know what? We get home 10 minutes faster than the other car. And you know what? Coach, maybe cut up like half an hour. You gotta have like.
It takes us 2 hours to get someplace. It took us an hour and 30 minutes.
Can I just?
And we wonder.
Okay, I'm gonna finish up and then I'll let you, okay? All right. Okay, so in order, this is gonna help you on your test. In order for a logical statement to be true, it has to both be true in the premises and the conclusion, and it also has to be valid. It has to. I wish I could think of one that I've gotten that that I've actually gotten, but the conclusion is not in line with this is true, this is true. It's out of balance. You will have to write one on your test, and I want to make sure you know how to do
We got
that.
it.
Okay, last question.
No high fives.
Review the story told by Dr. Geisler when he attended the University of Detroit. What fundamental problem did Dr. Geisler expose regarding A.J. Ayer's logical positivism?
Yeah, I think we did this one.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
We did.
We just didn't do number 2.
Oh,
No, we were supposed to write down.
We did that.
It was like last week's.
Okay, well, just by reminder, you don't have to do 2. You don't have to do 2. So it was self-defeating because it claims itself to be meaningless because logical positivism is neither true by definition nor empirically verifiable by science. So proven by science. So it's meaningless.
We have to say that.
What?
We have to say that.
Okay, so remember logical positivism said that things are only true that can be, they're meaningless unless they are true by definition, like this is a table, right? Or empirically verifiable, the scientific method. But that logical positivism is not true by definition, and you can't use the scientific method to prove it. So his very statement that things can only be valid or can be true if they're empirically viable
How
or
would
true
you
by their
even-
definition, it doesn't meet that threshold. So it is meaningless.
Like, how would you even try and scientifically prove that?
You can't.
Like, you
That's the
couldn't.
point. You can't.
Like, I'm saying, like, you couldn't even. Like, I understand that's the point, but even if you were like, no, yes, you can, and like tried to, I'm like, how would you couldn't? How would you even do that?
You can only work with things that
Yeah.
you can't
Or thoughts.
ideas, thoughts. You
Yeah.
can't do the scientific method.
Whole thought.
Or titrate.
Yeah.